I have been working on this staircase build for the last few days, and I keep thinking about this weird job I had a long time ago. So I was living in Seattle and I hadn't been there too long, so I was in the temp pool at the University of Washington. If you've ever been a temp worker, you know you get a call in the morning, sometimes the day before, and you've got different jobs. At this point, it was mainly like clerical office stuff. And maybe I'll mention it another time. I had some bizarre jobs at the University of Washington, like some really crazy things. But this one was so weird. I got the call, and it was to make macros for one of the departments in campus. I can't remember which department, some sciencey department. Anyway, they needed some macros made. That's all they said. We need macros. Now this is like 1998, somewhere. Yeah, 1998, 99. And apparently this was like a really cool thing to be able to make a macro. And if you don't know what they are, macros are just kind of like sequences of operations that you can, at this point, build into like a Microsoft Word document. And these guys didn't know how to do it, so anyway, they hired me. I said I could do it. I'd kind of fiddled around with macros a couple times. I figured I could figure it out. So I showed up at the department, and I talked to the gal at the desk. And she was like the office coordinator person, and she set me up. She said, okay, we need these macros built. They're not working. We've got like 3 or 4 documents. They all need macros. And let me show you your workspace. Thank you so much for showing up. You know, I was like, hey, no problem. So she walks me across the hall, this big old room. And I guess it was a classroom or like a some kind of big meeting room, like big room, you know, like 40 feet, 50 feet by 50 feet, like a big room. And at the end, there's a projector screen that's pulled down and a computer station, like a desk with a computer on it, you know, big old laptop. And she said, all right, we've got you set up here. This is the extra computer we have, and this is a good workplace for you. No one's going to disturb you, and you're good to go. And so, you know, I started setting up on the computer, and I realized that everything I'm doing on the computer is projected on the screen. And she says, I think she said, we don't know how to change that, or we can't change that, but it's no big deal. So I mean, I could have just unplugged the projector, I guess, or gone into the monitor settings and just disabled it. But for whatever reason, I worked on that job, and it was a 2-week job. I worked on that job, editing and fixing up and tweaking those macros the entire time in that big room with all my work up on the screen, like up on this big projector screen. It didn't take me long at all to figure out those macros. They were already embedded in these Word documents, and they were just barely messed up. I think some of the sequences were messed up. This was before you could really go online to find instructions for everything. 98, 99, like I was saying. I mean, the web was up, but it wasn't the best resource for finding info about stuff. Instead, what I did, the dogs are still getting used to these new stairs. Millie's got it handled pretty well. Tink, on the other hand, is just a little bit. Oh, she's coming up. All right, come on, girl. Come on. Anyway, so all I did to figure out how to make those macros was I went into the help feature in Word, typed in macro, and got it figured out. But the reason I've been thinking about that on this job is that it was, number one, a seemingly incredibly difficult job that they needed to hire someone for. That was relatively easy, like really not that big a deal if you just kind of researched it just a little bit, you can figure it out. So number one. Number two, and the dogs are just gonna bark, whatever. Number two, the job was just so weird in that I was working in this room and all my stuff was up on the screen. Like everything I did was on the screen. So if I were to screw around, it was on the screen. If I was to dawdle or make a mistake, I was on the screen. Now no one was watching. The room was empty. You know, occasionally she would come in and be like, hey, how's it going? I'd be like, oh, it's good, I'm making some progress. Now, so that's number two. Number three, this is the weird thing about this job. It was a 2-week temp job. And I was going to do it for 2 weeks, no matter what. Now, it took me like 2 days, maybe 1 day to fix those macros. But I just kind of played it out like it was one of those jobs that was going to take longer than that. I think you guys stay back, girl. So it probably wasn't the most ethical thing I've ever done. But those are the 3 takeaways I had from that really weird job, and I've been thinking about them this week because they completely apply to some of the stuff I've been doing.
Put the place up.
So here's my productivity update for the last week or so. As I mentioned, I've been working on building a set of stairs in our house. We've previously been going up to our loft where we sleep on a ladder, and that's just got a little bit old over the years. So anyway, built the stairs and a railing. Just finished up this wire railing portion to match the old railing. Anyway, that's in the loft of our house. And building these stairs was, I guess, a little bit like that old macro job. Totally like, I was the person who had no idea how to build a staircase. I've built plenty of stair stringers, like up to decks and that kind of thing, but an actual turned staircase in a tight spot to hit an exact height, that took a little bit of calculating and thinking about. So yeah, I got it done. Well, it's not done. It's got a little bit of finished work to go, but I've also been working on a website for myself. I've had just tons of different home pages over the years. This is a new home page, and I don't want to mention the name of it quite yet because it's not quite done, but it's a home page for all my projects. I've got a page sort of talking about my videos and what I do and my philosophy behind making YouTube videos. And let's see, I've got a support page on there and just some kind of cool stuff. It just it brings together a bunch of my different projects that are online. And that's been nice. It's also just been a little bit challenging. I, for a long time, have taught HTML and web design, but it's one thing to teach something, and it's something else to be able to actually execute it. And I want this website to be like totally DIY, so I'm coding the whole thing myself, but I don't want it to suck. So anyway, so it's been taking a little bit of work to make it look pretty good, and I will drop a link. If it's not in this video because I'm not done, it will be soon that I'll mention my website. Now, a couple other just sort of odd projects on the side. Melissa is a crazy knitter, like super into knitting, and once in a while it gets infectious, especially in the winter time when it's freezing cold outside. It's been like 5 degrees lately, and I have started knitting a sweater. I'm making a video about it. It's probably going to be a pretty ugly sweater and just weird fitting and stuff. But anyway, I'm knitting a sweater, and more on that later. It's also just something completely new. I do know how to knit, but I don't have any clue about making a sweater. So I'm trying to teach myself some new things. Stair building and sweater making and things like that. I'm also getting back to some old stuff like making that website, something I've done in the past, but man, I haven't done it in a long time. And then lest you think I totally forgot about the prison bus, no, the prison bus is still a work in progress. I've been doing some research about the electrical system. I thought I was gonna just tap into the fuse box to power up some exterior lights and a backup camera. But dude, the prison bus doesn't have a fuse box. It has like a breaker box. I'm just trying to figure out the load on those breakers and how they work exactly so that I wire it up just right. And I hope to drop another prison bus video before too long. All those projects are reminding me of that room where I code those macros. You know, I'm sitting there doing my work, but it's all on the big screen. I'd be lying if I told you that I didn't get a little self-conscious about the fact that I am working on something, like focusing on a project like this banister or staircase project, and then also making a video about the project. And just that knowledge that what you're doing is on display is, it's like a little bit unnerving. It's also like a little bit thrilling and kind of cool. I'll never forget when I was coding those macros and I was doing this job that it seemed like no one else could do, and it was on the big screen, I felt kind of cool. I felt kind of awesome for being able to do that job in just a couple days, where clearly they had needed to like hire some outside person. It was like a really good feeling in some ways to accomplish that job, and I've been feeling that way this last couple weeks doing this staircase project, like just blowing my mind that I could even build a set of stairs. They're not perfect, but they're pretty good. And I just wanted to wrap this up by mentioning where I've been getting some of my inspiration or motivation lately. And I was thinking about a few different YouTubers, and these were all like not builder people. I do watch a lot of YouTubers who, you know, make stuff like furniture makers and fabricators and welders and that kind of thing, and love those people. But I was thinking of a few people who are out there in another realm on YouTube, like kind of working on video, and that of course is because I've been thinking about that crazy macro producing job where I was working and the screen was running. These are people who incorporate video making into their daily like work on the job, and the one guy who comes to mind, and I just think he's really good at what he does, both as a tree cutter. He's an arborist, and just gets up high in the trees and does some amazing work and shows it all on YouTube. His name is Human on YouTube. His avatar or handle, whatever, is Human. But I was gonna say, he's good at his job as a tree cutter, but he's also a really great video maker. He makes videos that are not really all that polished. Like, they're kind of rough. Sometimes you can't hear him. Sometimes he's just kind of like showing you tons of footage that you wouldn't expect to normally see, but it's just so like raw and real, and it really fits with like who he is and his whole perspective. So anyway, check him out if you're into that kind of thing. His name's Human. He's a tree cutter, arborist dude, and talks about all kinds of things on his channel. Really awesome YouTuber. Okay, so that's what I've got for this video about my old weird job. This is video number 1, and what I think is going to be a series of kind of self-reflective videos talking about my practice and my thinking, and also looking back at some weird jobs that I've had over the years. Alright, thanks for checking it out.